What if the NFL flipped the script? Imagine your team's quarterback on their biggest rival. So today in Madden, that's exactly what I did. And things were crazy, from unexpected stars to quarterbacks that just got absolutely violated. So with that being said, let's dive right in. Alrighty guys, welcome back to another ZA Productions video. Today we are doing a very fun one here in Madden. We'll be swapping every single team's quarterback with their rivals. Should be a great one, so let's look at the rosters right now. Alrighty, so for the first quarterback we are looking at, it is going to be Patrick Mahomes on the Raiders. Let's check it out. Alrighty, so we are looking at the best quarterback in the league in a Bengals jersey, and I honestly do not hate this that much. We have none other than Joe Burrow right here. And I honestly hate this jersey swap. So as we can see, Josh Allen went to the Fins. Yeah, nothing too crazy. I think this is kind of underwhelming. So yeah, taking a look at Jalen Hurts in Cowboys gear, I honestly love him way more in the green and black. And yeah, I think he was born to be an Eagle. And now looking at Jaden Daniels, one of the premier QBs of the league, up and coming. I don't hate him in, blue, but I think he looks perfect in that Commanders jersey. And here's a look at the rest of the quarterbacks that I did not mention or show. A lot of names switch places, so yeah, it should be a great video. And without further ado, let's sim to the midway point. So after simming to the halfway point of the season, we're going to be looking at all the league leaders, everyone who's doing well and everyone who's doing terrible in their new system. So yeah, without further ado, let's check it out. So looking at it, Matthew Stafford is leading the Niners to a 6-1 season. This is pretty crazy in my opinion. I did not expect that from him, but anything can happen, honestly. Stafford's a great quarterback and is rated properly in Madden, I think. And let's look at the rest of the league. Despite having CJ Stroud, the Titans would still be 2-5 and at the bottom of the league. Kind of surprising in my opinion. The Chiefs would be 2-5 at the midway point of the season. I mean, Mahomes is kind of the heart and soul of the team, but I didn't think it'd be that bad. The Raiders are above 500 for, the first time in forever, so pretty cool that Mahomes can do that for them. Okay, so looking at some of the stats this year, without any real surprise, I think Lamar Jackson was undoubtedly going to be great. Brock Purdy is putting up numbers, but despite that, he still has an 82.7 QBR. Baker Mayfield's second go-around with the Panthers would be going pretty well, I'd say. Something that is crazy to me about this challenge is that Deshaun Watson has 100 more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, without further ado, let's sim to the playoffs and see who's in and see who's out. So after simming to the playoffs, things are pretty crazy, I'm going to say that. So let's dive right into it. So I'm going to let you guys decide what is crazier. Lamar Jackson being the only quarterback that went on over 4,000 passing yards. Spencer Rattler being top 3 in passing yards. Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow being in the bottom of the league for passing yards. Or the playoff picture on my left side. The NFC's looks pretty standard, I'd say. But we're looking at the AFC side, and a lot is different. For starters, Jets are in the postseason. And then the Dolphins have the 1 seed. But even crazier, the Bengals are not in the postseason. I think it's just a curse to be a good quarterback for the Bengals. But yeah, without further ado, let's go check out all these matchups and sim through the postseason. Our first matchup of the 2025 postseason would be Cam Ward's Titans versus Patrick Mahomes' Raiders. And the result would not be too shocking, as Mahomes was able to pull this victory out like he always does in the postseason. So let's move on to our next wildcard matchup. That would be Geno Smith's led Chiefs facing Justin Herbert's Broncos. And like always, Justin Herbert would somehow pull it off in hypothetical scenarios. Now moving on to our next matchup, it would be Drake May's Jets versus Joe Burrow and the Ravens, which would end up turning out in the Ravens' favor, as Drake May would keep it competitive, surprisingly, but it would not be enough for this Ravens team. So yeah, let's move on to our next wildcard matchup in the NFC, which would be our first rivalry game, the Niners and the Rams. It'd be Brock Purdy's Rams and Matt Stafford's Niners. And this one would end up being a snooze fest, as the Niners would get absolutely embarrassed at home by Brock Purdy. Now this one would be a real underdog matchup. It'd be J.J. McCarthy's Lions versus Dak Prescott's Eagles, who were soaring this season, but they would get stunned by J.J. McCarthy's Lions at home in a tight one-score game. Unbelievable. And now it would be time for the QB who switched places with McCarthy. It'd be Jared Goff and his Vikings versus this Cowboys team and Jalen Hurts, who would end up stunning the Vikings. Another upset by 3 points. This might make this wildcard round one of the greatest the NFL has seen. Maybe even better than that 2021 wildcard round. And this is why Madden will never be realistic. The Cowboys have made it past the wildcard round. Let's film the divisional round. And now moving on to Dallas, where the J.J. McCarthy-led Lions would be facing the Jalen Hurts-led Cowboys, which would end up turning into the Cowboys' favor by 3 points. Another 3-point game, which would probably solidify this as one of the craziest playoffs that we've ever seen. But now to bring us down back to earth, we'd have Mahomes and Josh Allen meeting in the playoffs. Who else could have guessed? And who else could have guessed that Mahomes would have beat Josh Allen? It's just a yearly tradition at this point. Let's move on. I forgot to show it, but here is the updated playoff picture for the divisional round. And now moving on to the matchup of the divisional round. It is going to be Joe Burrow's Ravens versus Justin Herbert's Broncos. Should be an amazing one and would prove itself to be an amazing one. Just a 4-point game, and Joe Burrow will be moving on to the AFC Championship. Let's go. And now heading into Tampa, where the Rams and Buccaneers would be facing for the second time in about 4 years in the divisional round. But unlike last time, this would just be an absolute blowout, as Brock Purdy's Rams would be headed back to LA after losing by 17 points to Bryce Young and the Buccaneers. Let's head on to the conference championships. Looking at the playoff picture after the divisional round, looks like something straight out the 90s. Let's get to simming these games. And yeah, I would not be lying. It would be the Cowboys in the conference championship for the first time since probably the 90s. Pretty wild. And yeah, the Cowboys would be up first, facing the Bucks. Jalen Hurts Cowboys versus Bryce Young's Buccaneers. Should be an amazing one, as it's two great teams facing off this late into the postseason. Let's dive in. So yeah, looking at it, the Bucks would somehow be trailing to Jalen Hurts and the Cowboys by 8 points, and a game-winning drive would have to be led by Bryce Young right here. Bryce Young would drop back on 1st and 10 in the red zone, and they would get the touchdown to Chris Godwin. Huge score, but they left a minute 12 left on the clock. But they would still need to get a 2-point conversion for this game to be tied, which they would get by going to Kate Otten right here to tie it up 25 apiece. But Jalen Hurts would hit his man out the backfield, and they would drive right into field goal range with 15 seconds left on the clock. And Brandon Aubrey would do Brandon Aubrey things and nail it down the middle, making this impossible for Bryce Young and the Panthers to really drive down and do anything, sending the Cowboys to the Super Bowl for the first time since the 90s. Unbelievable that Madden thinks this would ever happen. But heading into things that would also never happen is the Raiders in the conference championship. Really bizarre, but Mahomes and his Black Magic would be facing Joe Burrow and the Ravens in a primetime game in the conference championship with a Super Bowl trip on the line. And it would come down to the wire as Mahomes would throw a medicine ball and sacrifice Jacoby Myers right here, and then sacrifice him again with another target. And the Black Magic was in full effect as they would hit their man down the field again. But this time they would get a Ravens player injured in the making. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm a little suspicious. I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory at this point. But the Raiders would just continue to move downfield as Mahomes always does in the playoffs, just picking up first down after first down. It was looking like the Raiders were going to win this easily. But the Devil Magic wouldn't be able to save them on 2nd and 1 with a huge stop by the Ravens defense. And it was 3rd and 1. But the Black Magic would somehow bail them out as this would not be intercepted, keeping them alive. And it would be a 4th and 1 with 26 seconds left. Unbelievable. And on the most critical play of the game, Ashton G&T would get it handed off to him. I don't know what the Raiders were thinking, but somehow the Devil would still be on their side as they would somehow get this clocked with enough time to make a couple plays left. And on 2nd and goal, Brock Bowers would be the Raiders' Lord and Savior here and keep them alive. It would just be one extra point away from making it tied. And that's exactly what the GOAT, Daniel Carlson, would do, making it 21 apiece and sending this game into overtime where it should not even be close, as this Joe Burrow-led Ravens team should just be killing Mahomes, but Black Magic would keep him alive. And the Ravens would get the ball right out the gate in overtime, and they would be kept alive on 3rd and 6 by this insane catch by Rashad Bateman. But this drive would ultimately stall in field goal range, as Joe Burrow would have to dump it off to Derrick Henry, and they'd hit this field goal to make it a 24-21 game. But Devil Magic would still be well and alive as another Raven went down. Interesting. And Mahomes would at least get one more chance to at least just tie it, but maybe even win it and send them to Super Bowl 60. And right here would be the ultimate Devil Magic play. Just watch.
He's going to look for the home run ball. And he's going to take this one all the way.
Absolute insanity. The Raiders were headed to the Super Bowl after an unbelievable play by Trey Tucker. A just absolute bomb by Mahomes. Delivered to 1, and it would lead to 6. Unbelievable. Well, I don't have many words. I mean, like, I kind of expected this, as Mahomes is just unbelievable. But if you guys want to see my raw reaction from when I came back as I was AFK during the game, here it is. What the fuck happened? No. Alrighty, like I said, this was going to be a matchup right out the 90s, and it straight up is. We got the Cowboys and the Raiders in the Super Bowl. I'm pretty excited to present this one, as I kind of wanted the bracket to be like this. I didn't want the Cowboys to be in the Super Bowl, but we got the Devil Magic Raiders in the Super Bowl, so I'm excited to see what this one is, so let's get right into it. And now all eyes on Super Bowl 60, the unexpected matchup, but a quarterback rematch of Super Bowl 59 and 7. We have Mahomes and Jalen Hurts facing off for the 3rd time in, 3 years? I mean, like, this is one of the best QB duels we could have imagined. Unbelievable, and let's just dive right into this one. I'm very excited. But unlike the other times, this would actually be a low-scoring and close matchup. Typically, they've been very high-scoring, just always scoring like near 40 points each time. It feels like they even meet. But this is a 7-point game, and it's 14-7. But nearing the 2-minute warning, the Raiders would be moving down the field, and they are basically at the red zone, knocking on the end zone's door. And it is not looking good for Jalen Hurts, boys. And who else would it be to ice this game out? It'd be Ashton G&T standing up pre-snap with just his physical running and, the most realistic player in Madden, I would say. And on a 2nd and 5, Mahomes would keep the Devil Magic going, not by just picking up a first down, but sacrificing DaRon Bland. Again, another opposing team's player is hurt. And this time it's DaRon Bland. I don't even know if this is a conspiracy theory. But on 4th and goal, Ashton G&T would ice this game away with a run in the end zone and give Mahomes his 4th Super Bowl, basically solidifying him as one of the greats. And maybe even the GOAT. I mean, like, beating the Cowboys and preventing a Cowboys Super Bowl, let alone winning it with the Raiders. I gotta say, this is impressive in a Mahomes masterclass. Mainly Devil Magic, but gotta give it to him. And just like that, this challenge was over. It would be another Mahomes Super Bowl, unfortunately, but it did prevent us from seeing the Cowboys win. So I will say that is nice. But overall, this was a great challenge, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, like, seeing all these teams do good and some of the great teams do really bad, and really just watching resurgences. Spencer Rattler doing really good in Atlanta. That was cool to watch. I think, this was a great challenge, and it makes me really think that this could have been a cooler challenge in maybe Madden 20 when Tom Brady and a lot of the elites were in the game. Maybe in some of those earlier Maddens too, That 2010s era of quarterbacks was unmatched. A lot of greatness, but there's also a lot of talent right now, so I can't deny that, especially with Mahomes and his ability to do anything right now, so got to give it to him and the Raiders. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please leave a like and please subscribe. Trying to hit 50 subscribers by the end of this month. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in another one. Peace out.